Part 111. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1101. After fooling around for a while, I looked at Lu Hangxuan and asked, "Do you want to buy one?" Ah, Lu Hangxuan looked at me in surprise. Me? I nodded. Lu Hangxuan's expression changed slightly, then nodded. I picked one piece for myself, and then Su Tianxian and Lu Hangxuan each picked one piece. As for Nebe, there is no children's version. Cai Dai was so angry that she wanted to transform on the spot. I quickly stopped him. If he acted like an adult in front of so many people, it would definitely cause a big sensation. The stall owner has a fitting room here. Su Tianxian entered it, and after a moment, she changed and walked out. The moment she walked out of the fitting room, it seemed as if the world had lost its color. Su Tianxian is like a fairy who fell from the 9 heavens to the mortal world. She is not stained by the mortal world and has a stunning appearance. Traditional Tibetan costumes make Su Tianxian even more beautiful. In addition, Su Tianxian also wears silver pendants on his ears, which makes him look even more otherworldly. Su Tianxian pulled his clothes unnaturally, then came to me and asked, "Does it look good?" I nodded and said, "It looks good." The eyes of the surrounding tourists all focused on Su Tianxian. Various voices of praise filled the sky over the village. At this time, Lu Hangxuan also walked out. The same goes for Lu Hangxuan, who is stunning at first sight. But compared with Su Tianxian, I still feel a little inferior. Afterwards, I changed my clothes and walked out. Su Tianxian looked at me directly. I came to her, stretched out my hand, waved it in front of his eyes, and said, "Tianxian, what's wrong?" Su Tianxuan's pretty face turned red. She quickly looked away and said, "No. It's nothing. After changing clothes, we will go to the farmhouse for dinner." After walking a few steps, a man's voice rang in his ears. "You two, please stay." I turned around and saw a young man with a camera hanging around his neck. He expressed his intention to us and hoped to take photos of Su Tian and me. I looked at Su Tianxian and asked for her opinion. Su Tianxian nodded. This young photographer found the perfect backdrop for the two of us. At this moment, the setting sun casts half of the sky crimson, and the white and crimson gleam on the snow-capped mountains not far away blend together, making it extremely beautiful. Su Tianxian and I stood side by side. The photographer said to the two of us, "You two are so far apart. Come closer." I moved closer to Su Tianxian. The photographer still seemed dissatisfied and said, "No, no, you two are not a couple. Act a little more intimately. Put your hands around her waist." I hesitated for a moment, stretched out my hand, and gently held Su Tianxuan's slender waist. Su Tianxuan's pretty face turned red. She leaned towards me, and finally rested her head on my shoulder. There was a click, and the photographer made an OK gesture towards us. Su Tianxian blushed and quickly broke away from my arms. The photographer came to me, handed me a photo, and said, "Brother, you and your girlfriend are a perfect match, look at it." I took the photo. Su Tianxian in the photo is outrageously beautiful, but as for me, it's okay. Su Tianxian looked at the photographer and asked, "Can you give us a photo?" The photographer was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1102. After some trouble, he handed a photo to Su Tianxian. Su Tianxian carefully put it away. When I saw this, I said, "Why are you so careful? There will be plenty of opportunities to take photos in the future." Su Tianxian lowered his eyes and said nothing. Kadi grabbed my hand and said, "I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Go eat, go eat." Just like that, I was pulled away by colorful butterflies. Lu Hangxuan came to Su Tianxian, sighed slightly, and said, it can be seen that Lu Su really likes you. Su Tianqian raised his eyes, looked at the setting sun on the horizon, and said a little lonely, I hope this is not the last photo of the two of us. Lu Hangxuan looked at Su Tianqian and said with a smile, I also know something about your inheritance. With your strength, it shouldn't be a problem. Su Tianqian replied, that's not what I'm talking about. Lu Hangxuan's face froze, and her eyes were full of loneliness. Yes, he belongs to you now, but after knowing everything, he will belong to this world. I don't know the conversation between the two. We had dinner at the farmhouse. The dishes on the table are all local specialties. At this moment, Feng Yao came over and asked mysteriously, do you think there are really ghosts in this world? I hesitated, looked at Feng Yao, and said, let's talk about this matter. Whether you believe it or not, you have to keep a reverent heart towards ghosts and gods. Ordinary people have no access to things on both sides of the yin and yang. This sentence is the best explanation of the matter of yin and yang. Feng Yao was stunned for a moment, then whispered to me, I have inquired about the tower block where you live, and there are more than a dozen tourists who died in it. The police investigation failed to find anything. I had already guessed Feng Yao's intention, but I still asked, why are you talking about this? Feng Yao said mysteriously, I have a request. I want to stay with you for one night. I want to see if there are any ghosts in this world. This is the first time I heard this request from Feng Yao. I looked at Feng Yao's face and said, there are no ghosts in this world, so you'd better lie by yourself. As soon as these words came out, Feng Yao's face flashed with blood. I was slightly startled. This was obviously a bloody disaster. Don't be so stingy. If I stay with you for one night, the worst I can do is pay you some room fees. I looked at Feng Yao's face, hesitated again and again, and said, okay. As soon as he finished speaking, the red light in Feng Yao's front hall weakened a little. This is a bit strange. It is certain that the tower is haunted, but why did I reject Feng Yao? The red light on her face became more intense. Did you agree to some reduction? It seems that for the sake of Feng Yao's safety, there is nothing wrong with agreeing. After eating, we returned to the tower house. I found a random room and wanted to take a rest. As soon as he lay down, Su Tianqian opened the door and walked in. She sat on the edge of the bed and said to me, tomorrow, we will go into the mountains, first look for longmen, and then go to Yaokai. I nodded and said, okay. Su Tianqian sat by the bed and had no intention of leaving. I asked with some confusion, Tianqian, aren't you going to bed? Su Tianqian shook his head at me and said, you're not sleepy yet, I want to watch you sleep. Her behavior was a little strange, and it made me feel like she was leaving me, and she refused to let go of any chance to get along with me. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanbao. Chapter 1103. Tianqian, what's wrong with you? Why do I feel that you are weird? Su Tianqian shook his head slightly and said, it's nothing, I just feel a little sad thinking about being separated from you for a while. I stretched out my hand, gently held Su Tianxian's jade hand, and said softly, it's just a temporary separation. We will meet again soon. To be honest, I was quite sad to be separated from Su Tianqian. However, this is related to Su Tianxian's life. No matter how reluctant I am to give up, I can only agree. Su Tianqian smiled slightly, nodded, and said, I understand, you should go to bed quickly. As he spoke, he stretched out his slender hand and gently stroked my head. I smiled and said, Tianqian, don't you think of me as a child? Su Tianqian asked, what? You don't want to? Yes. Yes. How could I not be willing? I said quickly. Okay. Go to sleep. I nodded. Today was simply too tiring for me. Last night I used the Beza mantra, which consumed a lot of energy and drove for half a day. Smelling Su Tianxuan's delicious fragrance, I fell asleep in a daze. I don't know how long it took, but I was suddenly awakened by a bone-chilling chill. I sat up suddenly and looked around. It was dark all around. Su Tianxian had already left. The biting cold in the room made me feel like I was falling into an ice cave. Suddenly I had a bad feeling in my heart. I put on my shoes and walked cautiously toward the door. He came to the door, stretched out his hand, and turned the doorknob. But I found that no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't open the door. Just when I was about to use my means to open the door, a sinister laughter suddenly came from behind. The laughter is as thin as a gossamer, vaguely present, or not at all. I slowly turned around and saw nothing. Suddenly, I felt a chill coming from my shoulders, as if water was dripping on my shoulders. I slowly raised my head and focused my gaze on the ceiling. My pupils trembled violently. I saw a woman covered in blood lying on the ceiling like a gecko. Blood slowly dripped down her hair and landed on my shoulder. When Li Gui saw that I found her, he jumped up, opened his bloody mouth and attacked me. My face hardened, and I held up the 9 layers of Thunder Dew with both hands. I raised my hand and struck the female ghost's chest impartially. Boom! There were bursts of thunder and flashes of lightning, and the female ghost was directly blown away by me. She fell heavily against the wall, and I walked towards her step by step. When I passed by the bed, I suddenly felt like my ankle was being grabbed by something. I retreated repeatedly, trying to pull my ankle away, but it had no effect. I looked down at my feet and saw a pale ghost hand clutching my ankle. Without any hesitation, I summoned Jingxiao and slashed towards the wrist of the ghost's hand with one sword. I just heard a puff, and the pale ghost hand was cut off directly by me. I suddenly lowered my body, grabbed my broken arm, and pulled the thing out from under the bed. I saw that it was a male ghost covered in blood. It was during this little episode that the female ghost that I knocked out rushed towards me again. I turned around and struck out with my sword. With a bang, the female ghost's chest was torn open by me. 2 fierce ghosts lay on the ground like an evil tiger, looking at me with eyes full of hatred. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1104. I can't see anything human in their eyes. Some only have bloodthirsty desires. I frowned slightly. This could no longer be classified as a fierce ghost. But it has been refined into an evil ghost. It seems that the haunting of the tower is man-made. The 2 demons rushed towards me again. I don't want to get too involved with them. Because more than 10 people have died in this bunker. In other words, there are more than 10 evil spirits in this tower. I can easily deal with evil spirits of this level, let alone Su Tianxian and Lu Hangxuan. I took out the evil suppressing seal and threw it into the air. Golden words emerged from the bottom of the seal, wrapping the 2 demons heavily. In an instant, the 2 of them lost their ability to move. I didn't kill these 2 evil spirits. I still wanted to find out about them, the person who refined them. The evil suppressing seal is now blessed by the 8-character mantra, and the previous golden inscriptions are bound with some Buddhist teachings. If I hadn't taken action, these 2 evil spirits wouldn't have been able to break free. I ignored these 2 ghosts, because they had lost their humanity, and they only had bloodlust in their minds at the moment. I opened the door and planned to go find Su Tianxian to discuss what to do about this matter. But as soon as I stepped out of the door, I saw Su Tianxian and Lu Hangxuan walking towards me. Tianxian, are you okay? Su Tianxian shook his head and replied, I'm fine. She explained to me what had just happened to her. Similar to what I had here, they also encountered evil spirits while sleeping. I looked around and didn't see Feng Yao. I looked at Lu Hangxuan and asked doubtfully, "Isn't Fen Yao sleeping with you? Where is she?" In order to protect Fen Yao's safety, I let her live in the same house as Lu Hangxuan. But now, Lu Hangxuan is here, but Fen Yao is missing. Lu Hangxuan's expression became a little serious and she said, "Just now, she got up at night, but before she came back, I encountered the evil spirit. I just looked around and couldn't find her anywhere." Su Tianxian said to me, "You don't have to worry. When I saw her, I knew that something like this would happen to her. She was targeted when she took us to the bunker. If you don't bring her here, she will die. And since she is here, this disaster will be averted because of you." I suddenly realized that it was no wonder her face was flashing red when I saw it. It turned out to be like this. If I had not promised Fen Yao, then these evil spirits would go directly to the place where she lives, and then she would really be dead. Su Tianxian walked past me and came to the two evil spirits. She said calmly, "Xiao Su, you have to trouble Princess Wenqing." I nodded and called Princess Wenqing softly. The next moment, the white conch shell in the pocket emitted a dazzling white light. Princess Wenqing's figure gathered in front of my eyes. "National Division," Princess Wenqing said respectfully. I pointed at the two ghosts on the ground and said, "Sorry to trouble you." Princess Wenqing nodded, came to the two evil spirits, stretched out her green-white jade fingers, and touched their foreheads respectively. There was a flash of white light, the evil spirit on the evil ghost slowly dissipated, and the blood on his body began to disappear. After a while, the two evil ghosts returned to normal. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1105. Princess Wenqing's soul has merged with the white conch shell. White conch shell has the ability to purify evil thoughts. Therefore, Princess Wenqing also has this ability. I came to the two evil spirits and asked, "Tell me, what happened to you?" The two evil spirits were still in a state of confusion. After a while, the male evil spirit slowly spoke, "We died here a year ago. A year ago, the two came here to travel. The situation at that time was similar to what we encountered. There are so many tourists and the housing supply is tight. The village chief also advised the two people not to live in this blockhouse. However, the two of them are stubborn and do not believe in gods and ghosts. Something happened on the first night they stayed. They were brutally murdered by a ghost soldier wearing armor. Then they were made into ghosts, and their consciousness has not been restored until now." Hearing this, I nodded. It seemed that my guess was good. There is a mastermind behind this blockhouse who brutally kills tourists who come to live here. I asked, "Where is the ghost soldier wearing armor now?" The male ghost shook his head and replied, "I don't know either. He is no longer a ghost, but a human being." "Is it a human?" Then there is only one possibility, that ghost soldier has returned to life. If you put it this way, it can be explained clearly that he killed tourists. The art of resurrecting a corpse does exist. Among the 8 immortals, Taiguai Li is the one who borrows his corpse to bring back his soul. However, there are many taboos about reviving corpses. Those who use this technique will definitely pay a heavy price. The reason why the ghost soldier killed people and refined ghost evil spirits was probably to use evil spirits to make up for the side effects of reviving corpses. I continued to ask, "Where is the place where ghosts are refined?" Fen Yao disappeared. She must have been captured and refined into a ghost. The male evil spirit said quickly, "I will take you there now." With a wave of my hand, I released the restraints of the evil suppressing seal's golden inscriptions. I'm not afraid of these two ghosts playing tricks either. Because the humanity in their hearts has been awakened. Even if the two guys want to escape, they can't escape under the eyes of so many of us. The male evil spirit led us to a room. He groped around on the wall and heard the sound of mechanisms operating in the air. A secret passage quietly appeared. The male evil spirit led us into the secret passage. The secret passage went downwards gently, and soon we came to the end of the secret passage. This is a secret room, pitch dark, nothing can be seen clearly. I took out my phone, turned on the flashlight, found a torch on the wall, and lit it. Dim yellow light illuminated the entire secret room. I looked around, and the sight in front of me made my pupils tremble slightly. The walls were covered with human skins, which looked like they were growing out of the walls. It is not that easy to refine an evil spirit. The skin and flesh of the living person were peeled off, and then the corpse was soaked in blood for 7 or 49 days. Taking advantage of this time, he separated his soul from his body and suffered the pain of the evil spirit burning his soul day and night. Then after combining the soul and body into one, the evil spirit can be successfully refined. Once the evil spirit takes shape, it will definitely lose its reason and will only kill. In the center of the secret room I saw a huge water tank. When I came to the water tank, I saw Feng Yao being soaked in blood. Fortunately, Feng Yao's head leaked out of the blood and her skin was not peeled off. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1106. I quickly got Feng Yao out of the blood tank. I laid her flat on the ground and found that she was still unconscious, with blood slowly flowing out of the corner of her mouth. This must be drowning. I was about to perform CPR on Feng Yao, but at this moment, Su Tianqian stopped me. I come. With that said, Su Tianqian pushed me aside. Lu Hangxuan looked at me with a smile, and I asked doubtfully, "Why are you laughing?" Lu Hangxuan rolled her eyes and said, "Why are you laughing at me? In front of Master Tianqian, you go and press the breasts of another woman. If Master Tianqian doesn't get angry with you, you'll be lucky." I was stunned for a moment and suddenly realized. What I did just now was indeed inappropriate. However, it was also to save Feng Yao. After Su Tianqian completed cardiopulmonary resuscitation, he then began to knead the formula with both hands, and finally stretched out his index finger and gently touched Feng Yao's eyebrows. The next moment, Feng Yao suddenly opened her eyes and looked around blankly. What's wrong with me?" Su Tianqian helped him up and said, "You were captured here by a ghost. Fortunately, we came in time." As soon as these words came out, Feng Yao's pretty face turned extremely pale, as if she had thought of something terrible. I came to her, pointed at the two evil spirits and said, "Don't you want to see ghosts?" "No, those are the two." Feng Yao looked in the direction I pointed, her eyes full of fear, and she hugged Su Tianqian in panic. Su Tianqian glared at me fiercely and blamed me for teasing Feng Yao. I smiled, then stood up and came to the two evil spirits. "I will send you away from here and go to the underworld to be reincarnated." The two demons thanked me repeatedly. I stretched out my hand, just about to activate the ghost seal of the underworld, when a biting wind came from the passage of the secret room. I frowned, and the next moment, I heard a vicious voice coming from the passage. "Boy! How dare you!" Rapid footsteps sounded in the secret passage, and a figure jumped out of the darkness and rushed straight towards me. Just when he was about to approach me, a powerful demonic aura instantly invaded the entire secret room. There was a suffocating sense of oppression in the air. The man's legs weakened and he fell to his knees. He was a middle-aged man with ordinary appearance and sunken eyes, as if he hadn't slept in several days. He looked at Lu Hangxuan in disbelief. I'm afraid, he never thought that Lu Hangxuan was actually an immortal with thousands of years of Taoism. You. The middle-aged man looked at Lu Hangxuan for a long time and was unable to say a complete sentence. I didn't pay attention to this middle-aged man. I sent these two evil spirits away now, and then went to deal with this man. I activated the ghost seal of the underworld, and the gate of the underworld slowly appeared, and then opened the door. The two demons thanked me again and again, and then entered the gate of the underworld. After doing this, I came to the middle-aged man, looked him up and down, raised a sneer at the corner of my mouth, and said, "You are really good at reviving a corpse." The middle-aged man looked at me in horror and asked, "You, who are you?" I looked at him jokingly and said calmly, "It doesn't matter who I am, but where you come from." The middle-aged man's expression froze, he lowered his head and refused to answer. At this moment, Princess Wenching suddenly appeared. She looked at the middle-aged man kneeling on the ground and frowned slightly. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1107. Are you a soldier from the ancient Xiangshung kingdom? The middle-aged man looked at Princess Wenching. When he saw clearly what Princess Wenching looked like, he was stunned on the spot. You. Obviously, the middle-aged man in front of him recognized Princess Wenching. I asked with some confusion, "Do you know him?" Princess Wenching shook her head slightly and replied, "I don't know him, but I feel the aura of the ancient Xiangxiang country in him. Longmen is just behind the ancient kingdom of Xiangxiang. As long as we can find the ancient country of Xiangshung, we can find Longmen. I am worried that I don't know how to find the ancient country of Xiangshung. Here comes a guide." I looked at the middle-aged man coldly and said, "Take us to the ancient country of Zhangxiang." The middle-aged man raised his head and looked at me, looking unusually calm. "I can go, but, you have to promise not to hurt me." I raised a sneer on my lips and said, "You are not qualified to negotiate terms with me." I called out the colorful butterfly. I pointed at the man and said, "Give him a longer memory so that he doesn't dare to say no again." Cai Dai nodded. She came to the middle-aged man, stretched out her chubby little hand, and gently touched the man's forehead. The next moment, colorful lights flashed, and the middle-aged man fell to the ground, wailing in pain. "You, what did you do to me?" Cai Dai rolled her eyes and said, "Are you stupid? Of course I'm going to poison you." The middle-aged man was rolling back and forth on the ground, his hands scratching his body. It looked like something was crawling on him. Finally, the man couldn't bear the pain and begged me, "I was wrong. I will take you there. I will take you there." Saying that, I waved my hand to signal Cai Dai to stop. Cai Dai was no longer torturing the man, but instead said to him, "I poisoned your body. If you don't listen to us, or if you want to escape, you will definitely die from the poison." The man was sweating profusely in pain and nodded towards Cai Dai. Afterwards, a few of us left the secret room. After returning to the room, Su Tianxian looked at me deeply and said, "Have a good rest, we will set off tomorrow." I nodded in agreement. After Su Tianxian left, I called Princess Wenching out. I asked, "What dangers are there in the ancient country of Xiangzhou?" Princess Wenching shook her head and said, "I don't know, I just know that that place is very dangerous. After the fall of Xiangxiang Kingdom, it became a paradise for evil spirits." I nodded and asked again, "Then do you know about Longmen?" Princess Wenching was startled, and then replied, "Yes, I just heard that Longmen is located in the Sky Gap in Kunlun Mountain. As for where the Sky Gap is, I don't know." I told Princess Wenching about my search for Longmen. Princess Wenching opened her mouth after hearing this, but stopped talking. I said, "If you have anything to say, just tell me." Princess Wenching said slowly, "Since the Imperial Master is going to look for Longmen, I will give you something as you told me before." "The same thing?" Princess Wenching nodded and replied, "A memory, this is what you told me before." Princess Wenching paused and said hesitantly, "However, this memory is equivalent to a key. Once you accept it, Master, your memories of several lifetimes will slowly wake up. When the time comes, Your personality will most likely change drastically. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanba. Chapter 1108. Princess Wenqing continued, your strength will also grow rapidly, and the strength accumulated in previous lives will be awakened along with your memories. Hearing Princess Wenqing's words, I said without thinking, then I'll trouble you. These are memories that I will have to face sooner or later. Princess Wenqing nodded, stretched out her slender jade fingers, and gently touched my forehead. The next moment, a beam of white light flashed, and I felt a bang in my head, and a sharp pain came from me. I covered my head, collapsed on the bed, and my whole body began to convulse violently. Then, some images flashed through my mind. These pictures were blurry at first, but as time went by, I slowly saw them clearly. In my memory, I am dressed in a long robe, standing next to a man wearing a dragon robe. The man in the dragon robe said, "My dear, how is the fate of our country in the Tang dynasty?" I didn't say anything. Instead, I called another man in a robe to paint with me. In the first painting, I painted 21 plums, one of which had no branches. When I saw this memory, I instantly understood what this painting meant. The 21 plums symbolize the 21 emperors of the Tang dynasty, and the plum without branches is Wuzation. The second painting is of an official from a feudal town, symbolizing the fall of the Tang dynasty due to the separatist rule of the feudal town. The scene changed and I came to a magnificent mansion. A man was sitting in the lobby holding a baby in his hands. "Brother Yuan, what will be the future fate of my son?" I could tell at a glance that the man was holding a baby boy instead of a baby girl, so I said, "If it's a girl, she can be the emperor in the future. The baby girl in her arms is Wuzation." The scene changed again. It was me doing divination calculations under the sky full of stars, and then writing to a baby diagram. Scenes of scenes flashed through my mind. The last picture is me standing in front of Princess Wenqing, giving some instructions. The general meaning is to let Princess Wenqing live a good life in Tibet. This will be beneficial to the national destiny of the Tang dynasty. But in the end I said this. Thousands of years of planning, endless reincarnations. Thousands of years later, the real body will come down to earth, and his surname will be Lu Mingsu. Finally, I slowly opened my eyes and looked at Princess Wenqing in disbelief. The amount of information in these memories is simply too great. I can be sure that I am Yuan Tiangang, who successfully predicted the demise of the Tang dynasty in the Panzan separatist regime, successfully predicted that Wuzation would become emperor, and also wrote the Tuabei diagram. Of course, it also predicted my birth 1,000 years later. Whether it is Yuan Tiangang or Yun Ziazi, they are both reincarnations of me. And I am most likely the great Emperor Ziwei of Zhongtian, also known as Emperor Ziwei. However, this is not absolute, and I have no definite evidence to prove it. For now, what I can confirm is that I am a god descending to earth. I rubbed my swollen head and sighed slightly. Princess Wenqing asked with concern, "National Master, are you okay?" I shook my head at Princess Wenqing. The awakening of my memory this time was of great help to me. I feel like my Taoism has increased a lot unintentionally. Moreover, there are some more memories of divination, spells, etc. in my mind. It was also from this moment that my memory was slowly waking up, and every time I woke up it would bring about great changes in me. I did not continue the conversation with Princess Wenqing. The next morning, we were ready to go to Zhangzhou ancient country. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanba. Chapter 1109. Because you have to go deep into the Kunlun Mountains, you need to walk. The soldier from Shanghang Kingdom was named Cheetah. Through talking with him, I learned a few things about the ancient country of Shangsheng. How the ancient country of Xiangxiang perished was unknown to Chide. According to him, the entire ancient country of Shangsheng disappeared overnight. And their memory also suffered a temporary loss. When he regained his memory, what he saw was indeed a horrific scene. The streets of the entire ancient country were filled with minced meat and mutilated human bodies, and large buildings were dyed red with blood. Looking at it, it looked like a country soaked in blood. In addition, everyone in the entire ancient Xiangsheng kingdom died. The corpse was still in a killed state, as if some monster had disemboweled it, or it had been torn apart by a huge force. Chide thought he was not dead at the time, but was frightened by what happened in the ancient country of Xiangxiang. He thought he was not dead, and then ran out of Xiangxiang ancient kingdom, but after he came out, he knew that he was dead. Then how do you know how to revive a dead body? Chide lowered his head and recalled, when I came out, I met a Taoist priest. The Taoist priest was dying. I found a scroll on his body about resurrecting corpses. When Chide was narrating this, I kept observing the changes in the expression on his face. After some observation, I was sure that he was not lying. He doesn't dare to lie now because his life is in our hands. We traveled through the mountains, and soon it was night. Chide told us that we can reach the ancient country of Shangsheng in half a day's walk. We decided to camp on site for the night and move on tomorrow. I found Su Tianxian at night and told her that I planned to keep vigil tonight. Su Tianxian shook his head slightly at me and said, "There is no need to keep vigil, any movement around you will not escape my ears." I was slightly stunned and asked, "Xian, aren't you going to rest that night?" "Rest, but be aware of what's going on around you." After listening, I nodded slightly. Just when I was about to leave the tent, Su Tianxian stopped me and asked, "Xiao Su, I feel you are a bit strange. A little weird?" I turned back to look at Su Tianxian in confusion and asked, "What's wrong?" Su Tianxian frowned slightly, thought for a moment and said, "I can't really tell you. It's just that the feeling you give me has changed a little from before." I looked at Su Tianxian and hesitated to tell Su Tianxian what Princess Wenqing had awakened my memory. After hearing this, Su Tianxian's expression changed slightly. She sighed and said, "You've still made it this far, but this is something you have to go through." Su Tianxian looked at me quietly with her beautiful eyes open and said, "You have been reincarnated too many times and you will not remember each reincarnation clearly. Because, in some reincarnations you are just an ordinary person. Or maybe he died just after birth. You only have a few memories in your mind." It dawned on me. If I have the memory of reincarnation for eternity, wouldn't it turn into a mental illness? I now have part of Yuan Tiangong's memory. In other words, in my countless reincarnations, I can only remember people like Yuan Tiangong who exist at the level of gods. But, Xiao Su, you have to know that everyone's reincarnation is different. You can't be righteous forever. Can you understand what I mean? Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1110. Of course I know what Su Tianxian means. Everyone will be reincarnated. In this life, you may be a just policeman, but in the next life you may be a heinous murderer. I nodded and replied, "I know what you mean." Su Tianxian's expression suddenly became very serious, and he said very seriously, "In your reincarnation, it is very likely that there is a very evil existence from some party. Other memories are easier to say, because they are positive and will not have any impact on you. But especially those bad memories, they will influence your temperament and make you become a cruel and brutal person, or they may make you a cold and indifferent person." Su Tianxian's worries are not unreasonable. Ever since I accepted Yuan Tiangong's memory, I feel that my aura and character have changed slightly. However, I don't have much feeling about the specific changes. I asked, "Tianxian, Are you afraid that I will become the kind of evil person who regards human life as nothing? Su Tianqian hummed and said, that's right, but... She paused before continuing, no matter what you become, I will always be by your side. Even if you become that kind of evil person, I will try my best to bring you back to the right path. I also knew the seriousness of this matter. I raised my head and asked, if one day I really become that kind of evil person and become an enemy of the whole world, Tianqian, what will you do? Su Tianqian raised his head and looked at me very seriously. Then I will stay by your side and fight against the whole world. This sentence makes my heart warm. I stretched out my hand, gently took Su Tianxuan's jade hand, and gently took her into my arms. If I really become that kind of person, I hope you can clean up the door and bring peace to this world. Maybe it's because of you and Tiangong's memory that I began to care about the whole world. I have always lived for myself, and now, I also want to live for Su Tianqian. I don't want to see her sad, nor do I want to see her struggling. Su Tianqian leaned gently on my shoulder and murmured to himself. In the past, I had no relatives, no friends, no lovers. I think that if one day I suddenly disappear, no one will remember me, and no one will know that there is a person named Su Tianqian in this world. But now, I have relatives, friends, and a lover, so I want to hold on to it all. The relatives and lovers Su Tianqian talks about are me. I smiled at Su Tianqian and said, we will catch it all, don't you think? Su Tianqian nodded and replied, yes. We spent the night without talking, and the next morning we continued on our way. After walking for a long time, we finally arrived at our destination. Chide pointed to the lake not far away and said, that's where it is, the entrance to the ancient country of Xiangxiang. However, the entrance can only appear at night. I don't know how to enter. Because, after I came out, I never set foot in that place again. We are currently at an extremely high altitude. A thick layer of white snow has accumulated on the surrounding mountains. However, some places are really dry and yellow. However, the lake Chide pointed to has also frozen. We came to the lake, set up camp, and planned to see if we could find the entrance to the Xiangsheng ancient country at night.